everybody, this is Philip Martin, and this is On Film, on video, and this will be the last time this year I talk about the Oscars. I don't hate the Oscars. I really, honestly do not hate the Oscars. I'm going to watch until I don't, and then I'll catch up and I'll know everything about the Oscars I need to know by Monday morning. But and I think we have sensed a correction in these last couple of years. I do think that people don't care as much about the Oscars as they used to. The Academy Awards don't seem to matter as much to as many people, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm not opposed to having an Academy Awards broadcast. I'm not opposed to having the glitz, the glamour, the things that can happen during these broadcasts. Even like the Moonlight mix-up doesn't bother me. The right film ended up with the Oscar. The La La Land people handed it over. They were very nice. I guess what I don't like about the Oscars is I don't like having to have an opinion on it, because I don't think that that's really the job of a film critic. A job of a film critic is to basically try to discover fresh avenues of delight in the motion pictures that we watch, and write something interesting that might be true about these motion pictures. It's not to say that it's not to say who was the best actor, what was the best movie. All those things are subjective judgments, and we all know that. But still, this is not the Super Bowl. You don't have clear-cut winners and losers in this game. And that said, it is important. It's important for careers. People go up and down the Hollywood hierarchy depending on how the movies perform at the Oscars. Who gets nominated is important. Who wins is more important, even though we all know it has nothing to do with the quality of the motion picture or whether any individual is going to respond to that motion picture in a particular way or not. I'm usually bored by Oscar pictures. I mean, by the prototypical Oscar picture. But I also have a lot of them that I really like, Everybody is talking, and the funny thing is, I don't think it even matters that much, because what movie matters more today, Roma or Green Book? Roma did not win Best Picture. Green Book did. Roma is the one that people remember, at least the people I talk to remember, the people the people that care about movies remember, Green Book may still have a following, I don't know, but it seems kind of an embarrassing, almost anachronistic movie at this point, only 5 years after it won Best Picture. And even at the time it won Best Picture, it was not being thought of as a great film. Or was it 5 years ago? I don't even know. See, I cannot keep these strings straight. The only thing I know is I know Nomadland won last year, and I think that's a good one. And that Power of the Dog, which is a divisive movie, looks like it's going to win this year. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to win. Coda is making a strong surge, at least in the opinion polls and things like that. I don't know what the odds are on Gold Derby and stuff like that, but if you really want to win your Oscar poll, that's who you should consult, the people who are actually putting money up on these things. They have their algorithms that let them know who's going to win. Our poll, which we have this week, we brought it back, and we brought back a piece by Piers Marchant in the same spirit, but it's too long to stick with everybody else. And I think Piers has pretty much earned the right to have this little commentary. Maybe next year we'll let Keith do it, or Dan do it, or I'll do it again. But I think we need some Oscar talk in the newspaper, because it's a general interest newspaper, and we're not producing it for film aficionados. We're producing it for a general audience of educated adults, and maybe kids, maybe some, maybe some, yeah. some prodigies out there who are reading the newspaper, perhaps. But anyway, so this is our Oscar issue, and I hope you're happy with it. I'm happy with it. I think that we sort of struck a good balance, and we probably paid more attention to it this year, certainly more than we did last year, and we didn't even run our poll because it felt like last year that nobody had seen any of these movies. Now, this year, I think a lot of people have seen a lot of these movies. And one of the reasons is because a lot of these movies, Coda, Power of the Dog, Don't Look Up, are on streaming services. So we have sort of disrupted the whole model of the theatrical, juggernaut being the only thing that's going to be considered, because one of those films is going to win. I'm almost positive. Maybe something else, maybe Belfast will sneak in there. But I don't think so. I think that one of those streaming service movies is going to win. And that's fine. It has repercussions for the industry, has repercussions for, the way films are made and marketed and distributed. But it doesn't really have many repercussions for, people like me who write about the movies and who think about them and think about what they mean and look at them sort of in this, who take them as potential works of art. Okay? So I'm going to continue to look at them the same way, and I'm going to try to minimize all the business talk and all the horse race talk and stuff like that. I'm going to go through a few categories, and I'm going to talk about... Jenny Bolden, who I hope will be writing for us soon, actually mentioned that Dune is probably going to sweep the technical awards, and I don't have any problem with that, though I don't know enough about technical awards and about what these people do, which is why I think it's a great idea to have the guilds, that people actually do this stuff, vote on this stuff. She says that Dune's going to sweep this stuff and probably going to bore through them like a sandworm or whatever. And I think that's right. And even, cinematography, I wouldn't be upset if the cinematography category, which is something I care about and think I know a little bit about and feel qualified to judge a little bit, I wouldn't be, horrified if Dune won in that. And maybe it's the odds-on favorite. Macbeth, the tragedy of Macbeth, which didn't get nominated for Best Picture, which has upset some people, though I liked the tragedy of Macbeth. I did think it was. I don't think it's the best Macbeth. I do think the acting was really good. I really had a little bit of a slight problem with the way the lines were delivered. It seemed to me to be that they were attempting to make it accessible to modern audiences, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I missed some of the power and poetry of the Shakespeare readings. I do use Shakespeare's words. It's really more of an attitude about the way these lines are delivered. It's much more matter of fact, I think. But that's a niggle. That's something that, had I written about the film, which I don't think I did. Maybe I did. I didn't review the film, but if I had written about the film, I would have pointed out that I thought that I think I prefer my Shakespeare to be a little bit harder to get into, and that it's a little bit more rewarding if it's like that. I mean, it takes you into a different space. That's one of the things I really like about Shakespearean productions. It's like, for 2 hours or 3 hours, however long it is, you sort of are taken into this different reality that is that after about 10 minutes, I think most people really, if you give Shakespeare a chance, I think 10 minutes you're really into this. And I miss that with this Macbeth. It felt more like, they weren't using plain English, which is great because the story wouldn't even hold up that well. I mean, it's a pretty standard revenge story, but it's a niggle. It's not a big deal. It didn't get nominated, and Belfast did, and I thought Belfast was another film I liked. I mean, the only film on this slate that I really didn't like, and it's not that I didn't like it. It's that I thought it was a little bit too On the nose was don't look up, and don't look up is fine. I The only problem I have is putting in the top tier of motion pictures or movies released in 2021, because I don't think so. I think it may be there in a second or third tier, but it's fine. It's got its moments. It is a little on the nose for my taste, and the politics are a little bit raw for me. Even though, I mean, I think it's a perfectly fine way to approach. I think Adam McKay did a really good job of channeling his anger here. Okay, but you know, fine. If it wins, I'm not going to lead a protest or anything. I'll leave that to the people who will lead a protest, which there will be some. But okay. Cinematography could go to Dune. It could go to Power of the Dog. It could go to Macbeth. It could go to West Side Story. West Side Story, I caught it late. And it seems to me to be a superfluous film. I don't think we needed it. But it's really well done. And there's some really nice things about it. It doesn't coalesce into what I think Spielberg hoped it would. But, so what does? Okay. Let's go through some more of these categories. I'm coming around to thinking that J.K. Simmons as James Frawley in Being the Ricardos is a perfectly fine performance. I don't know all these impersonation performances where you're studying tape and you're getting the tics and the things. I don't know if that's difficult for these people. If you have a natural talent for it and you're trained, is it really hard for a Nicole Kidman to become a Lucille Ball, or to become as close as she can, given the physical differences between the two human beings? I mean, she gets the voice, she gets the mannerisms a little bit. A great example of this is Javier Bardem, who is Ricky Ricardo, except he's not, because he's much more of an imposing figure than Ricky Ricardo was, than Desi Arnaz was. I mean, and I don't have a real problem with that, because Philip Seymour Hoffman, when he played Truman Capote, I mean, he's a much bigger physical presence than, Truman Capote was no bigger than a junior mint, and Philip Seymour Hoffman was a fairly big guy. And I thought that was a fine film. I think that Seymour Hoffman probably did a better job as Truman Capote than Toby Jones, who's another fine actor, who also played Capote the same year, who is more physically like Truman Capote. He's a very small guy. He's a small person. But I don't have any problem with Philip Seymour Hoffman playing him. Furthermore, I wouldn't have any problem, with any sort of colorblind casting, or, sexual cross, I mean, I think actors can play whoever they want to play. Like Kate Blanchett did a great job of playing Bob Dylan, and I'm not there. I want to judge everything on its own merits. I don't want to hold actors up to a model and see how well they conform to that model and judge them that way in sort of this Westchester dog show sort of way, where you've got the ideal and you want to see how close they are to the ideal. I don't think that's a great idea. I really just think that it's take it as you can. So and I don't even know, because I have my Oscar picks. I don't have them up in front of me, and I probably should, because I'm going to probably contradict myself, or because it doesn't really matter that much to me. I think all the performances that are in these categories are fine performances. I think Olivia Colman, Jesse Plemons, Jesse Buckley, but also Penelope Cruz in Parallel Mothers, a movie I caught late too. It's hard for me to say one performance is better than another. It's much easier for me to say that I enjoyed this particular performance most of all, which is kind of how I go with it. I mean, Olivia Colman, I think, is great. I think came down the side of Penelope Cruz, though, for Best Actress, just because I enjoyed her in that film more. Olivia Colman, had a great year. Was outstanding in Landscapers, and she turns up in The Mitchells versus the Machines. She's having a great year. She's probably going to win the Oscar. It just feels that way to me. I haven't read any of the... I don't do any of the scouting like the people who actually pick these things seriously do. I just kind of go, I'd like her to win. I think she'll win. I'll feel she'll win. Whatever. Whatever. Will Smith. That's a funny one because that's a real person and he's based on it, and you can see videotape of Richard Williams. I couldn't remember his last name. Thank you, Serena and Venus. Richard Williams. You can find videotape of him and you can compare what Will Smith does. But I don't think it's, in the larger scheme of things, he's creating a character. I don't think it really matters what the real Richard Williams was like. And a lot of times critics will, if they know about a character or a real person that the character is based on, they will say that, well, the real guy didn't do this or didn't do that or didn't do this. Well, that's fine and good. That's content. That has nothing to do with judging the performance as far as I'm concerned. It's like it all kind of comes down to how well it serves the movie and how the movie works on you. So, again, we could have had Tracy Letts play Richard Williams, and I would give him a shot at that. If that could get me in trouble. Okay. Well, I wouldn't mind seeing Will Smith play Bill Clinton. How about that? In a different context, that could be interesting, if you see what I'm saying. All these performance sort of things seem to me to be the worst kind of horse race stuff. Because sometimes you get somebody who's not very good or who doesn't strike a chord with me or with a lot of people in these categories. I don't think that's true. I think Benedict Cumberbatch's performance is pretty much a divisive performance because the movie is divisive because Sam Elliott said some stupid stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that you're stupid if you don't like Power of the Dog. There are arguments made against it. Mr. Elliott, who is one of my favorite actors, did not make the coherent argument against Power of the Dog. All right. Which was, to be clear, my favorite film of last year. And why was it my favorite film? Well, it had a lot of enjoyable performances. Kirsten Dunst, who I am rooting for to win Best Actress, even though I will not say she did better than the others. I just, I don't know. Part of me feels this is Jane Campion's year, and Jane Campion's movie ought to win everything, but who knows? That's part of the Oscars. I'm going back and forth on all this. Let's go to Best Director. Hamaguchi, Drive My Car. That would be who I would pick as Best Director most years, I think. I think that there's... I think my idea has always been, and I've violated this, and I've told you when I violated this. It's the best director is the person who directs the best movie, right? That seems clear to me, but I understand why you don't always give, as an individual and as an organization, institution, why you don't always give the best director award to the winner to whoever directed the best picture. Because you want to spread these awards around, because you want to make nuanced kind of things. I'm not sure Drive My Car is not the best movie I saw last year. It is a daunting film for a lot of American moviegoers. It's 3 hours long. It's Japanese. It is based on a novella or short story by Haruki Murakami, which is in turn interpolates, to use a hip-hop sort of analogy, Uncle Vanya. It is one of those things that is a lot of fun for people who it's a lot of fun for, but it's really kind of scary for if you don't know Murakami, if you don't know Uncle Vanya, if you don't know Japanese and you're afraid of those 3 hour movies with subtitles, well, you're not going to want to see it. And it hasn't been in a lot of theaters in a lot of the country. I don't think it's been in Arkansas. If it has, it slipped past us because we haven't reviewed it. I'm saving that one for myself. It's just not going to win. So, Campion does a great job, and I think that well, I've said before, the thing about Power of the Dog, the way I felt watching the movie was that Campion was controlling what I saw and what I thought about what I saw. And there was a lot of precision to that film. And there are things that I immediately said that is not Montana. That's New Zealand. I've been to New Zealand. I know what New Zealand looks like. Especially not the mountains, but especially the scene where Phil is bathing in the river. That does not look like Montana. Okay? So what? So what? You can make movies in a place other than where they're set. Lots of people who would ding Power of the Dog for this would probably accept it in the John Wayne True Grit. That's where Darnell is, in the mountains, in the Rocky Mountains. Yeah, I mean, okay, you can find reasons to attack the movie, and like I said, there are some coherent and thoughtful ways to disagree with me about the quality of the film. Can you hear the siren? Now, siren again. We're in the siren time. All right. That means it's noon on Wednesday when I'm doing this. It's a big tell. Okay. Which I meant to have this done by noon on Tuesday. So, deadline blown. Anyway. Like I said, the acting awards are all kind of, I don't really care. I think they're all fine performances. It'd be interesting to me to see if Jesse Plemons or Cody McPhee-Schmidt win, because the idea, at least what seems to me like you ought to split that vote, if the Power of the Dog vote ought to be split there. And I could be completely wrong, and it would be kind of fun if, Belfast has this huge run at the Oscars. I don't think it'll happen because people who study this stuff kind of say it's not going to happen. They kind of say, well, it's going to come down to Power of the Dog, and Coda is surging. And Coda's a fine film. I thought it was a little too rote, a little too pat, a little too ordinary, though it has some very nice stuff. And Troy, is it Kosad? How do you pronounce that name? I don't really even know. But I think he's, got a Coster. Yeah, Troy Coster, I guess. See, I had to look this stuff up because he's fine in the film. He's really good in the film, and it would be a nice story for if he wins. I don't think Coda is going to, and he's the odds-on favorite winning now. I don't think Coda is going to win, and I don't think it should win, but I'm not going to be mad at it, So, what I wonder, and you guys can answer me. You can send me an email, which some of you do, or you could leave a comment, I guess. I guess that we allow comments here. Do we? Do we allow comments? I don't know. But if you don't, you can send me an email. I would like to know, if you care about this stuff anyway, you care about the Oscars. It seems to me that it's not just the pandemic that has dulled our appetite for this kind of, spectacle. It's sort of like last year was a weird time, and it's kind of weird to have a award show when everybody can't go out and all that. I've been out a few times since then, so maybe I feel a little bit better about this Oscars, and maybe this Oscars will be a little bit more entertaining. And we're hearing promises that there's going to be this great opening. We'll see. I think that Amy Schumer, Wanda Sykes, and the third woman, whose name has just dropped right out of my head. This is why we should not do this one take. But it's going to be a show. We're going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. I don't know if you're going to watch it. If you're not going to watch it, why don't you drop me a line? Tell me why. And if we lose it, if it gets marginalized, if it stops being the big deal that it has been in the past, it's one more thing that we've lost. It's one more part of that cultural glue that holds people in this country together, like the Super Bowl, like the World Series, which is now not what it was. And I think we need things like that. We need all to be watching the same thing at the same time sometimes. Streaming has changed a lot. And I assume that we're going to go more and more that way. It's going to be more and more a cafeteria style of culture where we're going to pick and choose what we want. Seems to me like in a world like that, we can use things like movie theaters and Oscar ceremonies to bring us all back to the same place at the same time as points of confluence, points of cultural confluence. Anyway, that's today's sermon. We'll see you later.